If the Secret Service is secret, how come we know about it?
Answer me this, answer me this.
If there was a ban on flouting, how would you flout it?
Answer me this, answer me this. Helen and Ollie, answer me this.
Well, we're starting with two of the things we care about most in this world, sport and Canada, because it's a question from Joanna, who says, I am a Canadian, and I've got a sports question.
Is it about the Poutine Olympics?
I don't think so. She says, a few years ago, I spent some time on your side of the pond and first encountered a sport called netball, which I'd never heard of before. It seems to be some sort of mashup between basketball and volleyball.
Well, there's no volleyball in it, and it's like basketball with all the energy taken out.
But she says it is obviously important enough that over there in the UK you even teach it in school gym classes.
Yes, 13 years of this wretched ball sport.
But only if you're a girl. If you're a boy...
You get to play real sports.
You get to play real sport. Even more surprising to me, continues Joanna, than its apparent popularity over there was its complete lack of a presence over here, Canada, whatsoever.
Well, you've got hockey.
Helen, answer me this. How did such a goofy-sounding sport become so popular?
Because it was forced on all of us at school.
And why didn't it take in my part of the world?
Well, it's a curious one, Joanna, because you're very close to the United States, where they invented netball to be a more ladylike and restrained version of basketball. So the reason why netball is so crap, and I'm sorry, listeners, but I don't care if you write and go, no, netball's brilliant, because I hate it because I played at school. It's crap because you're only allowed to go into certain portions of the court. You can't go to the full court. You're not allowed to move with the ball. You're not allowed to dribble like you can in basketball. You're not allowed to punch each other in the face like you presumably are in volleyball. You just stand there with a bib on, and it's rubbish.
And what was the thinking behind that being more ladylike?
Because you can't move, you can't flash your pants. Obviously, they used to play it in floor-length crinolines in the 1890s when it was developed in this way by a lady called Senda Berenson Abbott of Smith College. She adapted girls' basketball, which had already started off a bit, with rules that maintained feminine decorum and slowed down potentially strenuous play. It avoided physical contact. There was very limited opportunity for violence or brawls or injury because you're not allowed to touch each other.
Hello, it's Steve from Birmingham. I got married 2 weeks ago, and as a wedding present to myself, I bought the first 60 episodes of Answer Me This and the Diamond Jubilee and the Sports Day albums to complete my collection. Helen and Ollie, answer me this. How do I justify it to the wife?
I suppose many people's marriages are just an endless stream of justifying the unjustifiable, aren't they? Couldn't you just tell her you spent 60 quid on porn?
Well, I think in the grand scheme of what you spend in a marriage,
wedding.
yeah, and the wedding itself. But I mean, never mind the honeymoon and
if I'm going to
money
spend
on our
£150 on sugar almonds, I can at least get all the episodes of my favourite podcast.
Exactly, money on quality entertainment such as ours is certainly worth it.
She will have spent more on the wedding day getting her makeup done, which she was only going to weep off anyway during the vows, than you've spent on entertainment for a lifetime.
Yes.
I must say, I fully appreciate the idea of buying yourself wedding presents. Martin and I on honeymoon got ourselves a giant toy ham.
Well, the thing is, no one knows oneself better than one.
And it is difficult giving people digital files as a gift,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, exactly. We never actually thought about doing a wedding list option on our website.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
John Lewis rake it in, don't they?
Have we got enough diversity of merch to really sustain a full wedding list?
Well, you could wear one of the bibs as a veil. It'd be enchanting. I've got a better idea. Let's get ourselves ordained and then we can perform weddings. Sit down guests. In half an hour we'll get to the wedding, but first got to do a bit of banter.
But being realistic about a marriage,
yeah.
You know, it's not just about the honeymoon, is it? There's going to be a few weeks, maybe a few months, maybe a few years, maybe a few decades.
Feeling a bit flat after.
Where you're that couple. You're that couple sitting
one?
in the restaurant not saying anything to each other. At that point, when your marriage has got to that stage, maybe you don't hate each other, maybe you're just used to each other's... Exactly.
Wait, is this sentence going to end with, why not buy some episodes of Answer This to spice up your love life?
Why not fill the time by wearing some earphones and listening to us? Yeah.
Now, we've heard from Joe in Seattle quite recently.
Yeah,
he said,
can't get a second date.
Yeah. He's been in touch with his romantic woes before.
Oh, what a loser, Joe.
But I'm guessing that his love life is going a little better.
Oh, good.
Because he says, Ollie, answer me this. Sharing an ice cream cone with someone you're romantically involved with, is that charming or gross?
Or both.
Yes.
Because it might be charming to you, it might be gross to passers-by.
Or gross to the person you're trying to share it with.
Indeed.
I think also it might depend on how new your relationship is, because it's the kind of thing that is gross when you've only been on like one date with someone, then it's charming.
Well, it's not gross, it's creepy.
It's too much.
It's
too
too
much
much.
too soon.
Yeah.
Then there might be that early honeymoon period, like where you're really into each other and you
Yeah.
can't get close enough.
It's
And
like,
then
why would I eat without swapping fluid with you?
exactly,
Yeah.
what a waste. And then later you realise the validity of separating your ice creams. You might not even want the same flavour, but you understand that that's fine in the relationship. It's okay to have differences.
I think it's a matter of degree as well. If it's like, can I have a little try of your cone? That's fine. But if it's
Trying
like
is different.
If you're simultaneously tonguing the same cone, that's grim.
Also,
isn't it?
that's interesting as well, isn't it? Because the very thing that makes it sort of fun and acceptable, the flirtatious lick, that's the thing that makes it sort of amusing. Is also the thing that makes it disgusting if you're both like licking at both
Go
ends
for
of
Lady
it.
and the Tramp. Eat pasta, not ice cream.
Or soup. It'd be so romantic, wouldn't it? Or porridge.
I've shared a soup with someone.
And did they come off worse in that deal?
yeah, because I'm faster at eating.
Did you both put in a big straw into the soup? And
You
suck?
wouldn't share a soup with someone who you weren't romantically attached with, but you might share an ice cream cone, I think. Like, one might eat half and then the other half. You wouldn't be licking simultaneously.
No, yeah.
But I wouldn't share a soup with, even though, you could do the same thing. My platonic friend could eat half of the soup and then I could eat the other half.
No one wants the bathwater
No one
second,
wants the
do
bathwater
they?
second. Yeah, exactly.
I'd share my soup with a...
Not with Ollie,
with a
though,
friend.
would you?
No, not with Ollie. obviously. I wouldn't get her looking, would I?
Ollie's an only child, he doesn't share food. Here's a question from Daniel from Crystal Palace, who says, I'm currently undergoing an orthodontic procedure. This procedure involves applying pressure to the teeth using wire and minute elastic bands that agonisingly force the teeth into position.
Drama queen much?
So, Ollie, answer me this. What sadist thought up the idea of braces? Surely there's a less painful way to do it. Well, presumably being anaesthetised for several years while they train your teeth back into position, but it's not practical. It'll have other side effects.
Yes. It's very hard to pinpoint a particular sadist because, of course, there are a long line of sadists, or as they prefer to be called, dentists, who contributed to the evolution of braces technology as we know it today.
They're just trying to help you, Daniel.
So as long ago as 1728, there was a dentist called Pierre Fauchard.
How did he get in on the braces act? Was it him who said, if you wear this, say, leather strap or wooden brace in your mouth for X months, your teeth will grow in correctly? Was that his shtick?
I think the one that you have to blame for all of the weird little funny additions is probably Calvin S. Case, who was the dentist who made them really hilarious because he was the one to add little rubber bands to braces.
The colourful bits. Whenabouts was that?
That was in the 20th century, I believe. But actually, archaeologists have discovered ancient bodies with bands wrapped around their teeth.
Really?
Although that may have been apparently to stop their teeth getting separated in the afterlife, of course.
Also, I thought there was quite a big trade on teeth, so presumably the teeth of corpses were often nicked.
Yeah, I suppose just putting a band around them was just like a little reminder to grave robbers, be like, hold on, you sure you want to do this?
Oh, I better not go on the grass, there's a sign. I'm sure that band would work. But anyway, Daniel, I think you should be grateful to the pain because the pain is nature's way of telling you that your teeth are being forced into a position that others consider superior, and maybe medically superior because some people's teeth are growing in the wrong place. I think also if they had less painful ways to do it, they would use them, but it's a slow process, making teeth grow in the right way, and I think the surgical options are not going to be any less painful.
I suppose the worst thing about braces that I've read is apparently sometimes the wire can fall out the back of them and spike through your cheek. Yeah. So that's a good reason to not eat toffee when you've got braces.
Yeah, there are lots of things that I'd imagine are quite difficult to do when you do have braces. And also, I remember my friend used to twang his elastic bands tunefully. But it's not a nice tune, is it, when you're thinking about where it's coming from?
Have you ever heard of a sexual fetish involving braces?
I haven't looked into one, because I don't find braces attractive on their own in that way, and I've never had braces, so I've never been sought by somebody with that fetish, so I'm not the right person to ask.
But as an instrument of both medicine and restriction, and which does something to your mouth, you'd imagine that someone somewhere has found a sexual use for those, no?
It could really shred your foreskin if you're not careful.
If you've got a question, then email your question. Yeah, to answer me this podcast, googlemail.com. Answer me this podcast, googlemail.com. Answer me this podcast, googlemail.com. Hepcat. Answer me this podcast, googlemail.com.
So, retrospectors, what historical events are we ticking off on this week's run of Today in History?
On Monday, the anniversary of the day Ozzy Osbourne and a bat came face to face on stage.
On Tuesday, we go back to the future with a potted history of the DeLorean.
On Wednesday, why is the Pope guarded by those guys in floofy hats?
On Thursday, how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ended up in Cleveland.
And on Friday, was Henry VIII really an asshole, or was it just the result of a jousting accident?
We discuss this and more on Today in History with the Retrospectors. 10 minutes each weekday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Here's a question from Liam from Pimlico, who says, Helen, answer me this. Why on earth do Heinz name their soups cream of? As far as I've ever known, mushrooms, tomatoes or chickens have never been cream-giving ingredients.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get any cream out of a chicken with that attitude, Liam. So,
You have to sweet talk them first.
answer me this. How did it come about that soups were named that call for cream in this way?
Isn't it cream as in creamed corn, rather than cream from a mushroom? It's cream of a mushroom.
Well, it just means it's got cream in it, doesn't it? We all know what it means.
It means it's mashed up. When you talk about creamed corn, it's mashing up corn, isn't it?
Well,
I see.
Well, debatably. So the cream of soups, the base either involves like a creamy puree of vegetables or cream.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's cream of when it's cream ed or cream with, but there it is. We've just got to all live with it.
But it's the cream of mushrooms. It's the mashed up product of mushrooms.
Yeah, but you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you, if you got cream of mushroom soup and it wasn't creamy in texture? Whereas by your definition, you could just juice some mushrooms and that's cream of mushroom soup.
Yeah, I guess there must be cream in mushrooms.
I think the two explanations probably combine. I think
Cream and vegetable puree. Rum.
I think it's both, isn't it? It's got cream in it, but also it can mean the cream of mushroom as in the product of mushing up mushrooms with cream.
Whereas cream crackers, no cream, make no mistake.
You could cream crackers, but just be
very
a
dusty.
meaningless paste, wouldn't it?
Cream of cracker soup.
Oh, that'd be dry.
Yeah.
Be popular in the South.
Why?
Joke about crackers, meaning a Southern gentleman.
What?
You know the expression crackers?
No, I'm from the South. So that would just
not
be
South of England, South of America.
as in South America.
The south of the United States of America.
Okay, see how confusing
where
language
white
is in the wrong
sometimes
mouth.
referred to as crackers, meaning redneck or similar.
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Nor have I.
Because they used to gather in the Cracker Barrel and discuss matters of the day.
What is the Cracker Barrel?
You would siphon out the crackers, like you'd put your cup under the tap and you get some liquid crackers.
No, it's just when you go to a country store, there'd be a big barrel and it would have crackers that you could snack on and you could scoop up some of those and take them home to your wife.
Right.
And
that's their equivalent of the water cooler moment, is it? The Cracker Barrel chat?
Yep.
What an extraordinary romantic story you've just told us.
I've read about a Tanzanian soup called supu.
And how does that make you feel?
Well, pretty rank. Do you know what's in it?
Poo?
You're not far off.
And a woman called Sue?
Goat lungs, heart, liver, head, cow stomach, intestines and tongue, hoof and tail.
I feel like such an idiot for putting my goat lungs on my cereal all this time. I should have been so much more adventurous.
I think that would be okay.
It's only a Tanzanian equivalent of a Jewish chicken soup in a way, isn't it? Which does have giblets and intestines and head
or
in
like
it.
Scotch broth, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's something quite vivid about a Tanzanian gentleman mashing up goat lungs, though, which there just isn't in a pre-made supermarket soup powder, and yet they're the same thing.
You don't want to know what is in those.
You don't want to know, do you? Yeah, that's the thing.
minestrones.
Yeah. So here I am feeling culturally superior because I don't eat goat lung soup, and I probably do. I wouldn't eat the tiger penis soup, though. I know that they're endangered and that's why you shouldn't, but even if they weren't, that just doesn't appeal to me.
Is it because you're afraid everyone will think you're gay?
You've put too many cocks in your mouth as it is.
Would you eat a tiger's tits soup?
Would you eat any kind of penis?
I thought you'd never ask, Martin. No, I don't think I would eat any kind of penis, no.
Would you eat something that was small, like a whitebait, so you were incidentally eating the penis?
Yes.
You're eating
Yeah, you've eaten loads of animal penises without realising it.
Oh, wow, you really caught me off with that. That's like...
Ollie Man is a cock hypocrite.
That is just a modern version of primary school when we used to go, did you see Spastic say no last night? No. Ah, you're Spastic! Unbelievable. I don't, by the way, stand by the use of the word spastic.
No.
It just genuinely is what happened to me at primary school.
Do you like fish sticks?
The playground joke they had at my school, as well as, did you know they'd taken gullible out of the dictionary?
Oh, I love that joke.
That's another one.
That's a brilliant joke.
Is Ollie, put your fingers in your mouth like this.
Yeah.
And then say, I was born on a pirate ship.
Oh, because I am a ranker. I am a ranker's son.
Oh, that's good as well.
I was born on a pirate ship.
Oh, that actually didn't work.
What's supposed to sound like shit?
Pile of shit. I was born on a pile of shit.
I was born on a pirate ship.
It's not good.
Doesn't work. Banker's son's better because it sounds
Really
like wanker.
did.
Simple.
Well, we've all learned something today.
And not the pheasant
Plucker, I'm a pheasant
I
plucker's
can't do
son.
that with my fingers in my mouth.
If you've been affected by any of the issues in today's programme, you can call 0208 123 5877. Or you can nut up or shut up. Are you a man or a minx?
Mrs. M, Mrs. I, Mrs. SSI, Mrs. P, Mrs. Y, Mrs. I can't remember the rhyme. This is a question from Kristen from Mississippi, who says, Helen, answer me this. How do
I spell Mississippi?
How do things that glow in the dark work?
Phosphorescence.
Aren't they that rubbish Jesus band?
Oh.
Boom.
Is that evanescence?
It's an evanescence joke.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, okay. Fluorescence is a phenomenon is when you put light into something and it emits light at a lower wavelength. So there's UV things that light up. You shine UV light and you get lower wavelength.
Keep it light, keep it fun, Martin.
Sorry, right. Sorry, I thought you wanted a technical explanation. Anyway, but like phosphorescence is the same, but it's a very, very slow process of re-emitting the light that you've put into it. It's like a light storage process.
A very, very slow process.
But sometimes, like on watches, the fluorescent paint on the hands might have a little bit of radioactive material.
Really?
Yes.
That is interesting. When I was about 10, I went to NASA in Florida.
When I was about 32, I went to NASA in Florida.
I win, and well, actually...
I went more recently.
Yeah,
so there were more rockets there.
I went there when I was 34.
Anyway, if I'd have gone, actually, when I was 32, I could have got a T-shirt with NASA written on it. Whereas at the time, what I thought I wanted was that space food that they eat in space.
I got some for my niece, but she is 7, so I thought it was appropriate.
It just, I mean, imagine what dehydrated ice cream tastes like. Not a very nice idea, is it? Why would you want to buy that as a souvenir?
Imagine it being a bit like polystyrene, but pink.
Yeah, exactly like that. It tastes a bit like you're eating a bar of soap at Lush. Anyway, alongside my space food, the thing that I brought back from NASA were, I guess they were packaged as like space letters, but actually they were just cut out little letters that you could stick on the ceiling, and they'd give a glow-in-the-dark phrase. But I didn't know what to write.
Oh, no.
So I wrote... this is humiliating, but I think it's revealing something in my character.
Yeah.
I wrote, "There's only one Ollie Man."
There's another Ollie Man on Twitter, isn't there? Which is why you're the Ollie Man.
No, there's some twat got at Ollie Man and then didn't use it ever. And the only correspondence he's had, as far as I know, is people trying to get me. And including me saying, "Hey, can I get this off you?"
In a way, a publicity-shy Ollie Man is like your portrait in the attic.
Yeah, but anyway, I just find it embarrassing to look back on that. Of all the creative things I could have written, "I love Mummy," and I wrote, "There's only one Ollie Man." I think it just shows a ridiculous sort of sense of self-belief, which I wasn't entitled to have, really.
Anyway, Martin, who does not have a ridiculous sense of self-belief, bought a large melamine plate with the moon on it.
That's cool.
I got a charm bracelet which has got rockets and astronauts and a landing pod on it.
That's cool as well.
But it just goes to show that when you're 32/34, you appreciate tourist gift shops more. You get the good shit.
Here's a question from Carl, who says, "Helen, answer me this. Why do we have Artex ceilings?"
Because the person who owned your house before and then died put it there.
And is from a different era to you.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing they did then, isn't it? Borders. That's another thing people used to do.
Oh, those ones at sort of waist height.
Yeah.
And then your wallpaper's different underneath.
Yes, but the border perhaps matches the curtain fabric.
Yeah.
You know, just the thing that holds the curtains to the wall.
Ooh, pelmet.
The pelmet, yes,
Yuck.
indeed. He continues, who created this particular design?
Well, you have to check and see if there's a signature at the bottom. There are a lot of different patterns, aren't there? Because there's a sort of stipply effect. There are various different waves. Some people even go for fancy leafy designs.
They are awful, aren't they? It's like gravel houses, that's the other one.
Pebble Dash. Well, it's similar principle.
I know it's a cheap material, but just paint it, for God's sake.
No, but we've covered Pebble Dash before. It's because in places like Stoke-on-Trent, which have got a lot of mine shafts underneath, so the houses are subject to subsidence, it covers up the fact your walls are cracked. Artex, similar. It's very tough, it doesn't crack like plaster, and that's why people put it up. And also, I think it became very popular during the kind of craze for DIY and home improvements, which sort of hit Britain around, I think, the 70s. And it was relatively easy. You didn't have to get it all perfect like plaster. So people just daubed it on. It's got asbestos in it, which means you can't really take it off again. But they say just don't even try getting it off. Just cover it up with plaster, which you can then smooth over. So that's why people liked it, to cover up the fact that the walls were uneven. Like my mum used to be really into textured wallpaper because she said, well, people will be able to see that the plaster's not even. But then all you could see is unevenness in the bloody textured wallpaper instead. What I don't understand is not so much why Artex exists from retro times, because the company started in the 30s, is why it still exists now. Who is still Artexing their houses? Because let's say the last great Artex craze was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The company should have gone bust by now, right?
Yeah, but I guess things come round, don't they?
No.
Like cassettes won't die. People still want to listen to cassettes.
They're virtually dead. That's just retromaniacs.
But it is lunatics.
Right, are there hipsters Artexing their houses right now?
Another morning opens with a bloom of questions burgeoning anew.
but questions seem to always strike at awkward times, like when I'm on the loo. The answer me, there's paperbacks, the perfect size to take into the John. It's at your local Waterstones or online Amazon for your convenience.
Here's a question from Rachel in Phnom Penh, who says, Helen, answer me this. Why is there a Sussex, an Essex and a Wessex, but no Nossex in England?
No sex.
This seems like an odd omission. Yeah, it's because surely that's the reason, isn't it? Because it sounds a bit like no sex.
Oh, it's a much older reason than that.
Go on then.
Because otherwise, why would you put sex in the county names, which we've discussed before on this podcast?
Middlesex.
So, the conquerors of this nation were the Saxons and the Angles, and they separated it into lots of different kingdoms. So South Sax was Sussex, East Sax was Essex, Middlesex in the middle, Wessex, that was West Saxon lands, but they did not have a North Sax because the Angles had that area, so they just never got to the North one.
North Sax was just the Angles territory?
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of choosing a Sux at all, the Sax should have chosen something else to have the north of, and they could have had it, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, they could have just scraped a bit off the top of Middlesex.
And said that's the north, yeah.
But they didn't think. They didn't think about their legacy. They probably thought, we'll probably conquer that Angle land later. Didn't.
Hi guys, it's Mike from Belfast. I have a bit of a problem. Years ago I started writing little heartfelt verses, poems, messages in birthday cards, Mother's Day cards, things like that, because it made me look really deep and sensitive, and also meant that I didn't have to buy as expensive a present because, it was the thought that counted. It was easy for a while, but now years later, every time I have to sit down and write on a card, I'm racking my brains for some new way to express the same old things. I hate repeating myself. So, Helen and Ollie, answer me this. Have you ever set yourself any dangerous or, in retrospect, unfortunate precedents? And how did you get out of them?
Mike, let me tell you a little parable. 6.5 years ago...
I knew you were going to do this.
A pair of friends, let's call them Ellen and Wally, started a podcast, and they thought, gosh, we probably won't be doing this in a few months. We'll have run out of things to say. But lo, did they continue. And they realised, having used up all their most obvious thoughts, they had to just delve deeper and deeper to get their next most obvious thoughts. And then the next most obvious thoughts. And then some thoughts you truly wouldn't expect to have about subjects such as pizza or pop music or whatever.
My friends, Ben and Nikki, started a cycle of buying each other birthday presents that were a bit too nice for each other's birthdays. And one of them now has to break it because they can't afford to keep doing it. What happened is she took him to New York for his 30th.
Oh.
And so he got her an iPad for Christmas.
Where'd you go after the iPad, though?
Exactly.
A boat?
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
But I don't know what lesson Mike is supposed to infer from that, unless he goes back in time and just tries less hard at the beginning so that he's got more room to manoeuvre. I suppose just... go to places you didn't know you had in you, Mike. And maybe don't go for the obvious themes of Mother's Day isms.
Rather than trying to come up with poetry each time, could you just do a little drawing that's sort of like a jokey thing based around your relationship with the person that you're sending it to?
Yeah, but the point is he's now set the precedent that he does poetry. So
but
there's 1 year where the drawing's got to be as good as the poem.
Well, it doesn't, though, because a new medium to express himself, then I don't think he does have to meet the standards of the poem. Maybe you could do a puzzle, like do a word search, Mike, because then you don't even have to put the words into a good order. Here's a question from David from Malden, who says, Ollie, answer me this. Why are car tyres black? Wouldn't it be much more fun if you could get them to match the colour of your car? I have a red car and I want red tyres.
Well, David, how about orangey brown tyres? Huh? That'd be pretty cool. Because that's the colour that tyres used to be. The colour of latex. Yeah.
Oh.
And the problem was they weren't really durable enough. So then they put carbon in them to give them more traction. And then the natural colour they actually went was black from the carbon.
Just get yourself some red rims then instead, David.
Well, you can get red ones, but the friction isn't as good. So the tyres will wear down quicker and it'll cost you more. And it'll cost you more anyway because... if every tyre stockist had to stock, 5 colours of tyres in various different makes instead of just one, they'd need more shelf space, they'd need to order different amounts, it would end up costing you more.
Even more, because tyres are a lot.
Tyres are a lot. I spent £420 getting 2 tyres recently.
Yep. Because tyres are a lot. Yeah, but then is it outrageous?
Stops me from dying on the road, so I do
what
appreciate
price
the value.
Answer me this.
Hampton Court was Henry VIII's home. The O2 Arena was the Millennium Dome. Wasn't it? I went to see you in your room, but it had been turned into a Weatherspoon. So I ordered a 2-for-1 curry and a macaroon, but they don't sell macaroons. Do they? I just ate both curries, and now I regret that.
A question of hygiene now from Simon, who says, due to me being horrendously bad with my funds, I've moved back in with my parents on the proviso that my girlfriend, Moo, can stay over every night.
Wow, I would not have liked to have been in that negotiation.
No. Yeah. What exactly are you offering them?
Yeah. Well, parents, I've come to take up that room that you're finding so desolate, and in return, you can think about the fact that I'm having sex in your house.
Yeah.
With someone called a noise.
And by the way, I have no money, so we'll just be eating your food as well.
But I think at the moment, because of recession and everything, a lot of parents have to accept the fact that their adult children are going to return to the nest.
Absolutely.
That they had just converted into a gym. In a nest.
Simon continues. Moo comes from a much more well-to-do middle-class background, as opposed to my working-class Yorkshire background, and is very particular about the way things are done, including hygiene and cleanliness.
Are the working class unhygienic and uncleanly?
If Simon hadn't written to us saying that, if Simon had said, well, I'm middle-class and my girlfriend's working-class, so obviously she's filthy, that's an outrageous thing to say, isn't it?
In fact, you get a lot of aristocrats that are kind of crazy, dirty and hoarders.
And a lot of very house-proud sort of council flat tenants and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. Let's not make this a class thing.
No, let's not, Simon.
This transcends
Let's
class.
come together after Thatcher. Simon continues. My parents, however, are not obsessed by hygiene and cleanliness.
Good, they've probably got more interesting things to think about.
Yeah, like, why is your girlfriend called a sound? Back when we were living in my flat, continues Simon, with her help and of my own volition, we kept it spotlessly clean. Since my change of address, though, I've been the one person in a household of 5 people who does all the cleaning. From scrubbing the toilet to vacuuming and mopping the floors.
Wow, such a Cinderella, aren't you?
Actually, I mean, that is a handy thing for the parents to have around, isn't it?
A serf. Maybe that's why your parents are being a bit messy, because
Exactly.
they know that you're there to scoop it up.
Yeah. I myself, says Simon, was never a clean freak until I got my own place, so I can see how this seems very odd to my parents. So Helen, answer me this. How can I recruit my parents into at least helping me keep the house looking spick and span without them thinking it's all the doing of my very lovely and very particular girlfriend? I'm aware too that them letting her stay over every night is very generous indeed, so I don't want to tread on their toes too much. I just think a slight change of lifestyle would benefit not just me, but also them.
Sure, but you are under their roof, and therefore you kind of have to put up with their lifestyle, don't you?
Yeah,
but I think if they're accepting your cleaning and they're not going, stop it!
Yeah, they know perfectly well that it's better.
They've got a good deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Why on earth would they help you?
Yeah.
And if you're living rent-free, I don't think this is that unreasonable. The problem is the 2 people in the house that aren't you or your parents, maybe they're the ones that you need to address. If they're also living there rent-free, recruit into a kind of rota system.
The best you can do is ask them to financially support the buying of the cleaning products that you are demanding need to be there. I don't think you can expect them to start copying your cleaning regime when you've come to live in their house.
No one likes a passive-aggressive, annoying, neat freak housemate. Well, listeners, that's the end of this episode, but please do send us your questions that there may be another episode next week.
Oh, please, Helen and Ollie, let there be another episode. Do.
Oh, why are you emotionally blackmailing me, Helen and Ollie?
Because we need your questioners, otherwise we won't do it because we have nothing to say. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, you've laid it out so boldly.
Think
Where's the
about
romance
that.
gone? Anyway, but do get in touch by all of the means which are available on our website,
AnswerMeThisPodcast.com, where you can also find links to our first 120 episodes at the incredibly generous sum of only 79 pence each.
What else are you going to buy with that 79 pence? Nothing of import.
You could buy one of my songs from my album.
You can get those for free as well on
Oh,
your
you
podcast.
could actually, yeah. That's a good point.
You've just undercut your own market.
You could buy like a packet and a half of Rolos or something.
You can follow me on Instagram if you want to. I do some good photos.
It's incredible the good things we tempt the listeners with at this point in the show.
The sky,
Neither of us follow Martin
people.
on Instagram, do we?
I don't use Instagram.
No, exactly, neither do I.
That's because I'm the best at Instagram, there's no point.
I would join Instagram just to block Martin.
We'll see you next week.
Bye!